Mummy? Oh dear Mummy. Who is that weird man and why is he pouring water down your back? Mummy? Oh dear Mummy. Why is that awful man tearing up your books? What's become of us, Mummy? What's become of us?
Oh, Apollo, stop making such a fuss. Besides, Mummy looks like she's having fun. You're having fun, aren't you? Aren't you, Mummy?
She's not answering you. Why isn't she answering you?
It's painfully obvious, isn't it, then? She can't, because she's just an etching.
Sweet Sister Diana, does that mean we're merely etchings as well?
Oh dear, yes, you silly boy. We're part of Emblem 11 in Michael Maier's magnificent emblem book, Atalanta Fugiens. That's what this is all about. We're merely cheeky renderings of Latona's twins, Apollo and Diana. Besides, you have much larger issues to deal with.
Larger issues? Do tell.
Well, for one thing, you have a silly sun halo around your cute little face. But more than that, dear twin, everyone can see your, naughty bits.
Oh dear Mummy, why didn't you properly dress me? Why didn't the illustrator give me a fig leaf? Diana, if I pray and wish really hard to our daddy, Jove, might a fig leaf appear and restore my modesty?
Wish away, dear brother. Wish away. Oh, dear brother, a fig leaf hath appeared in the light of up that naughty bit. Such a wonder to behold.
My modesty has been delightfully restored. Oh joy, oh rapture.
And what of mine? I require 3 fig leaves, and yet I possess none.
No matter, I will recite the words of the oracle taught me, Diana. Almighty Jove, please issue 3 fig leaves to restore my dear sister's modesty. Please assist us, as we are just simple, cheeky renderings in an otherwise charming emblem book from the 17th century.
Oh, thank you, sweet Daddy Jove. My modesty hath been restored thrice. Now that we're properly dressed, I suppose it's time to introduce the video and welcome everyone to Hermetic Journeys.
Might I be the one who proclaims? I am, after all, Apollo, son of Jove, god of the sun, poetry, medicine, and music.
Indeed you are, dear twin brother of mine, but I am Diana, daughter of Jove and Latona, goddess of the moon, wild animals, and the hunt. My mighty bow would split your tongue and obliterate your naughty bits.
I dare say, most strident sister, thou art most capable.
And so it be. Apollo and I welcome you to Hermetic Journeys with your silly, silly host, TonyG. Unleash the lightning bolts of Jove, Junos will shake the earth, and let the games begin!
Hello and welcome to Hermetic Journeys. Wow, good to see you again. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it, guys. Love you guys, all of you. Hey, what'd you think of that, huh? That was that was Max and Carly. Max is my nephew and Carly is his fiance. If those two weren't meant to be together, I don't know who was. I mean, oh my goodness, weren't they sensational? Love you guys. Thank you so very, very much for being in this wacky video that I do here. In any case, and certainly the future will definitely hold more parts for you because you guys are so awesome. Anyway, so hi, and thank you for tuning in. Welcome back, and let's take a look at Emblem 11 now. Emblem 11 is complicated, all right, in that there's a lot of stuff going on, all right? Not necessarily what's going on is so complicated, but there's a lot of characters in this, okay? And there's a big story to be told, and we're going to talk about our mystery guest briefly in this particular section, but our mystery guest is so cool, okay? In any case, let's take a look at the emblem. We see in this emblem several characters, as I said. And the emblem, of course, was colored by Adam McLean of Alchemy website fame. I particularly love what he's done here. The coloring is so beautiful. The subtleties and the shadings just beautifully done. So thank you, Adam McLean, for doing this for all of us. In any case, we have three central figures here. We have a woman in a green gown. We have a child with a sun face and another child with a crescent moon on her head. And we have these two guys on either side. One guy, of course, we know this guy now. Thank you, Donna Bilek, for revealing this secret truth to us, hidden in plain sight. That is Michael Maier on the left, pouring water on this woman. And there's a guy on the right tearing up books. Let's see what the motto says. The motto says, make Latona white and tear up her books. Okay, so now we know that the central figure, the woman in this image, is Latona. Well, who the hell's Latona? Latona is a goddess from Roman mythology. And so let's take a look and get more information on these characters in this image by reading the epigram. Here we go. And this epigram, by the way, is taken from Furnace and Fugue, Donna Bilek's wonderful digital publication. And I encourage you to check it out. It's really, really cool. It's a lot of fun. So here we go. The epigram says, ancestors of truth, no doubt, to us relate. Latona's twins produced from Jove the Great. Some say she's Sol with fair Diana mixed, having a face most white, some black betwixt. Study, my dear, to wash these spots away, then burn those books which led your thoughts astray. Isn't that great? Michael Maier, I'm telling you, the guy's unbelievable. Okay, so let's talk about some of the characters in here that are mentioned. The first one, of course, Latona's twins. So now we know those are her children. Her twins were Apollo and Diana. Apollo, of course, represents the sun, which is why he's got a sun face. Also, masculine energy, and in the alchemical context, sulfur. Then we have Diana, representing the moon. She has a crescent moon on her head. She represents the feminine aspect. And of course, Mercury or silver sometimes, depending on who's writing the alchemical manuscript. And they, of course, are complementary polarities, okay? They are opposites. So, who's Jove the Great? Well, Jove is another name for Jupiter. And Jupiter was the king of the gods in Roman mythology, sort of like Zeus, okay, was in Greek mythology. And they both kind of were having trysts all over the place with, goddesses and human women and all that stuff. They were pretty licentious, if you will. In any case, and we're going to find out what happens here. All right. Sol with fair Diana mixed. Well, Sol is another word for the sun. If you look at any astronomical diagram of our solar system, you will see that Sol is the sun. We'll get to the other stuff about making her face white and all that stuff. We're going to get to that in a little bit. Okay. Well, let's focus on those three central characters before we talk about the two guys on either end. Who is Latona? All right. Latona, as I said, is from Roman mythology. She was the goddess of motherhood and of child protection. Women in Rome would call on Latona when they were to have children, and certainly for protecting those children in the long term. Latona was a very popular goddess. All right. Now here comes the ugly story. She was impregnated by Jupiter, had a little tryst with Jupiter, and Jupiter's wife, Juno, was not happy about this, okay? She was betrayed, and she was furious. So what did Juno do to get revenge? Well, what she does is she kind of sends a message out to the earth, okay? She was a powerful goddess, and to all those inhabiting the earth, telling them about this. And wherever Latona went to have the children, the earth would tremble, and rocks would shake, and animals would do their thing, sneer at her, and that kind of thing. And when she went into a town to have her children, the populace would scorn her. All right. So what does she do? She goes to the seashore, all right, and she invokes Neptune, who is the Roman god of the sea. And Neptune feels sorry for her. He has compassion for her. He summons a large dolphin. She climbs on the back of the dolphin, and the dolphin takes her to an island called Delos. Okay, so she has her children on the island of Delos. All right, wonderful. So she goes in search of water because she's thirsty, right? She's nursing the children. She's thirsty, and she comes to a town where when she walks into the town, the townspeople recognize her, of course, because Juno has made it very clear as to who she was, and she has her twins with her. And they go to the one pond in the town. The townspeople go in there and they muddy up the water. They kick up the mud and the muck. Latona can't drink from it. Well, she gets really angry about this because she's got to take care of her kids, right? She's got to be healthy too. So she turns them into frogs. Yeah, that's what she does. And in fact, there's a beautiful fountain in the Garden of Versailles in France. Someday, we definitely want to go there and see this. And as you can see, I'm going to zoom in on this. Big fountain, all right? Big fountain. There's some golden figures here. And in this particular image, you can see that they are being transformed into frogs. A lot of them are already. They've been transformed. There's one, the figure on the left there is obviously a human with a frog head. And at the top of the fountain, we see this beautiful statue of Latona with Diana and Apollo. Really cool, right? So that's the story of Latona and Diana and Apollo and how they came to be. What is Latona? Who does she represent? Of course, we know that this is all metaphor, right? And Michael Maier took this from Ovid's Metamorphosis, all right? And we talked about that in the previous video I did, the brief little video, all right? So Latona, I had to do a lot of research on this, and trust me when I tell you it was a lot, it was a lot. I was like, going crazy with it. But in any case, I did find out that Latona actually is an elongated word for Latin, Laton, not like the language Latin, Latin, Laton. Now, Latin is it's an alloy made of lead, zinc, tin, and copper, all right? And a lot of the implements for the early churches were made out of Latin because it wasn't as expensive as gold, okay? But it had a similar look to gold, right? Just kind of looked like gold. So I started researching the word Latin, Laton, and actually I found in an alchemical book, all right? The book is called, as you can see it here, 13 Secret Letters by Adam Friedrich Burma. There's an excerpt from the book. Of course, you can search the book online. Thank goodness for that, right? And I looked for Laton, and Latonem came up. So at the bottom here, it says, while you do this solution, your salt, like a chameleon, will go through all the colors, green, blue, red, and white. Thus you have Latonem cleansed. I'm going to make this leap of faith and say that Latonem is actually where Michael Maier is getting Latona from. She's a representation of this amalgam that is used apparently in alchemical experiments and stuff like that. He's standing behind her and he's washing her with water. Okay, he's cleansing her. And certainly where it says make Latona white. Okay, so now let's think back to the three phases of the alchemical process, right? We have the black phase, the white phase, and the red phase. Well, he's making her white. So what he did was he changed, and this is the part that really got me, he changed the E in Latonem to an A in Latonam. And if you look at the original Latin version of the book, Deobate, Latonam, and Rompite Libros. Pardon my Latin. So you see it, he took Latonem and Latonem, right? And he just switched it around a little bit, and he pulled that whole story into this particular emblem. Wow. I know, like, whew, man, I had a headache after doing all the research. It took me a couple of days to figure all this stuff out. Now, let's go back to the epigram where he says, having a face most white, some black betwixt, study, my dear, to wash these spots away. She's impure, all right? Latin is an impure, it's an alloy. It's not pure gold, okay? It's not pure copper, it's an alloy. So he's saying, study, my dear, to wash these spots away. He's using it metaphorically to say, to learn how to purify these metals, you have to study the great art, which of course, as we know, is alchemy. This making sense? I think this is so cool, all right? So, I'd like to read an excerpt from the discourse where he addresses this specifically. He says, in excerpt number 1, hereupon Latona had there the most sumptuous temple next to Vulcan. Vulcan was the god of fire in Roman mythology, for those of you who don't know, covered and adorned with gold, as she that was the mother of the philosophical Apollo and Diana. But this Latona is brown and blackish, and has many moles and blemishes in her face, which must be taken away by art. Of course, we know art is, of course, the great art or the alchemical process, namely by dealbation. I'll tell you what that means in a minute. Some do make dealbation of ceruse, also known as spirits of Saturn, mercury sublimate, talc reduce to oil, and the like, with which they encrust, cover, and so whiten the outside of the skin. But these whitening incrustations fall off, and with every wind or liquor, because they do not penetrate into the more inward parts. What is going on here? Okay, dealbation it's another word for bleaching. Okay, so we need to bleach Latona, right? But she's only taking care of the outside of her skin. She's not taking care of the inside, right? So we think about like gold plating, right? Gold plating isn't as nice as solid gold, right? So here we see the alchemical process, the metaphor for the alchemical process taking place here. He's saying whiten Latona, all right? In other words, in the three phases of the alchemical process, black phase, white phase, red phase, we're talking about the white phase. Whiten Latona, purify her so we can make the Philosopher's Stone, all right? We can use that. Making sense? Now, interestingly, I had to look up something that ceruse. I had no idea what ceruse was. And I looked it up, and this is very interesting. And this dovetails so nicely with our mystery guest, all right? So ceruse was a cosmetic made in the 1600s that people who had severe blemishes, or in the case of our mystery guest, contracted smallpox, which severely scars the face, okay, and other parts of the body. Well, this cosmetic called ceruse, all right, whitened the face. What it did was, it was actually white lead. It was water, vinegar, and white lead with the ingredients. The lead, unfortunately, over the course of time, caused hair loss. Well, I don't use ceruse. The loss of teeth falling out, and eventually, with enough usage, death. And so no one knew this, of course, at the time, and many women used ceruse to cover blemishes on their faces, and many women died from this. It's just a terrible thing. And our mystery guest, it is rumored, suffered the same fate. What's with the guy ripping up the books? What's that about? Well, let's take a look at the third excerpt from the discourse I'd like to read to you that will perhaps clarify this. So great is the diversity of authors in writing that the explorators of truth do almost despair of finding the end of art. For allegorical speeches being of themselves difficult to be understood, and the causes of many errors, especially then, if the same words be applied to different things, and different words to the same things. Oh my goodness, right? How many times have we encountered this in our study here of Atalanta Fugiens, where many things, many different things, have the same name, all right? And many names are applied to the same thing. Right? Like in the instance of Diana, the moon representing Mercury or silver, right? So when you're reading these alchemical manuscripts, Michael Maier is saying here, hey, they can be confusing. Ironically, so is his, right? It's a great irony that he wrote this, because his is confusing too. You have to really have this depth of knowledge to understand what's going on, or at least be retired and have enough time to study it. Okay, in any case, so I wrote 3 points that I think will clarify this, all right? I'd like to read them to you. Number 1, in tearing up of Latona's books, Maier is telling us that many alchemical manuscripts can be confusing, as they typically employ metaphor and secrecy, as we've seen in Maier's own book, making understanding alchemy confusing and complicated. Number 2, by tearing up the books, Maier is suggesting, metaphorically, that those who seek the deeper meaning to alchemy must take up the practice of alchemy. Reading about alchemy will not make one an alchemist. A large part of the experience comes through the laboratory. You always hear me saying, and I'm sure you're annoyed hearing it at this point, I am not an alchemist, right? Because I only read about it. I don't have an alchemical lab set up in my apartment. I'd probably blow the apartment up, or I'd die from mercury poisoning or something like that. Maybe someday when I get a house, I'll do something like that. Maybe on the plant side more than the metal side. Metal side's kind of dangerous. And number 3, my own spin on this is that, on a spiritual level, reading the Bible, the Torah, the Mahabharata, or the Quran will not make you a better person. We need to put mercy, compassion, and love into action. We need to go out and help others and be kind and loving to others to truly achieve the next level of evolution. So let's take a look at excerpt 4. He kind of provides us with a balance here in excerpt 4. Let me read this from the discourse. So the same to inculcate that a man may spend his whole life though he should live 1,000 years in distilling and redistilling before he can attain to truth by experimentation alone. Study removes ignorance and reduces a man's genius to true understanding and the knowledge of everything. So here Michael Maier is telling us, well, you can't just do the lab work either, right? You have to have the philosophical foundation. The word is praxis, Praxis, okay? Putting theory into practice. And that's the word that occurred to me as I was reading this. I was like, oh my goodness, that's what he's talking about, okay? And that is what he's talking about, I believe, okay? I'm not perfect. I certainly don't have a firm grasp on this, but I think this is what he's talking about, praxis. Take your theory, put it into practice. So Emblem 11 is very interesting. We'll recap, okay? We have Latona, Apollo, and Diana, right? Now, Latona could also represent assault, right? So then we have the tria prima, this beautiful triangle here, all right? So we have Latona, Diana, and Apollo. There's a triangle. Then we have Michael Maier, who's the alchemist. He's whitening Latona. He's purifying. Maybe she represents the prima materia. Maybe she represents the material that needs to be purified. Maybe that too, right? Could be. And so we have Michael Maier, who is representing the alchemist here. And then we have the guy on the right tearing up books. So Michael Maier is reminding us, okay, you can read about alchemy, but you also have to practice it to fully understand it, to get full understanding. Praxis, okay? So that takes care of Emblem 11. And now let's meet our mystery guest. Welcome back. It's time to talk about our mystery guest. But before I do that, I'd like to reintroduce to you an old friend of mine. Well, sort of, the Angry Mummy Candle. How you doing? Yeah, it's nice to see you again. And his compatriot, the Happy Mummy Candle. Well, welcome to Hermetic Journeys. It's so nice to meet you. Well, thank you very much. Oh my goodness, what a nice... Yeah, why is he so grumpy? What's his... Well, I guess he is. You are the Angry Mummy Candle, right? Well, in any case, it's nice to have you two with me today to introduce our mystery guest, okay? Now, I'm even wearing a tie for the occasion because this person is so special to me. Now, we did mention this person a few videos ago when Dr. John D was our mystery guest. So I'm tipping my hat here to those of you who have seen that video. And I know you didn't see it. It's okay. Just relax, will you? Good grief. Well, thank you very much. In any case, we need to talk about this person at length here. A person who suffered much adversity over the course of their life, certainly a rough childhood, and as this person became a historical figure, suffered tremendous adversity and actually is a role model, in my opinion, for women. Let me introduce her without any further ado. We're talking about Queen Elizabeth I. Yeah! Woo! All right, Queen Elizabeth. Yeah, oh my goodness, okay. So Queen Elizabeth was born on September 7th, 1533, and died in 1603. And the reason we're talking about Queen Elizabeth is because she succumbed to something we spoke about in the previous section of this video, Cirrus. And we will get into the details on that, the sad details on that as we go along here. So I'm entitling this section of the video, Make Latona White, but don't make Elizabeth white, okay? All right, so we know what that's all about. So anyway, yeah, I know. So in any case, let's talk about Queen Elizabeth. Well, first of all, some of you may or may not know that she was a Tudor, Tudor, okay? She was the child of King Henry VIII. Oh yeah, wow, yeah, King Henry VIII. So how did this all happen? Well, King Henry VIII wanted to produce a male heir. Okay, because of course, in those days, men were the only ones who could assume the throne. So, unless there were special circumstances, okay, as in Queen Elizabeth's situation, which we'll get to. So Henry VIII marries Catherine of Aragon, fathers a child who they named Mary. King Henry VIII was upset about this, okay, he wanted to father a male heir. So, what does he do? He wants to divorce his wife, all right, Catherine of Aragon, because he meets Anne Boleyn and he falls in love with Anne Boleyn and he wants to marry Anne Boleyn. Well, the Pope says, well, no, you can't do that. You're Catholic and you can't do that at the time. And King Henry VIII says, oh, yes, I can. I'll convert to Protestantism and I'll change England. England will convert to Protestantism. And that's exactly what happened. He defied the Pope's decree and made an enemy of the Pope, all right? And he converted to Protestantism. He married Anne Boleyn, okay, and fathered a child with her, and that was Elizabeth. So Queen Elizabeth's mother was Anne Boleyn. Now, Catherine of Aragon was Catholic. Anne Boleyn was Protestant, all right? So Mary, Elizabeth's half-sister, was Catholic, and Elizabeth was Protestant. Keep that in the back of your mind, because that's where all the trouble starts, right? Well, King Henry VIII kind of started the thing between the Protestant Catholic thing. I don't know why people fight about these things. I have no idea. I'm mystified, to be honest with you. But in any case, it does happen, and I'm sure people have valid reasons for it, to kill each other and that kind of thing. In any case, let's continue here. So Anne Boleyn did not produce a male heir either. So when Elizabeth was 3 years old, Henry VIII accused Anne Boleyn of treason and adultery, and he has her executed. So when Elizabeth is 3 years old, her mom is decapitated, all right? It's a terrible, terrible thing, right? So Mary, her half-sister, takes over the role as mother. She's very kind to her, because Mary was 17 years older than Elizabeth, and she takes care of her. And it's really kind of a sweet thing, because Mary gets a bad rap, because when Mary becomes queen, she did some pretty terrible things. But actually, she was very kind to her sister. As was Henry VIII, being kind to his children. Not so kind to his wives, but very kind to his children, okay? Which is good. So, in fact, Elizabeth was so bright, Henry recognized this, and he actually provided an education that a prince would receive for Elizabeth. I know. Yeah, I know. Isn't that incredible? It's really, really cool. I'm very, very happy about that because she was so brilliant. She spoke 4 languages, Latin, Greek, Italian, and French, plus, her native language, English. So that's no joke. I mean, she was very, very bright, and language was her passion, okay? Now, one of the people in the courts actually said about Elizabeth, her mind has no womanly weakness. Oof. Yeah, I know, even you know that's wrong, right? Well, back then, sorry, I know I'm not. Back then, what happened was, women were, of course, looked upon as, second-class citizens, all right? Gentlemen, as it were trained in eloquence and the arts of war, and women, gentlewomen, were urged to keep silent and attend to your needlework, okay? Yeah, I know. Hey, I don't make this stuff up. Yeah, I know. In any case, yeah, can you believe that? So that's the mentality we're coming from here, okay? Henry marries again, a poor soul named Jane Seymour, and she provides the first male heir to the throne. And here's a nice painting of Jane Seymour, Henry VIII, and Edward, little Edward VI, that is. Of course, when Henry VIII dies, Edward VI assumes the throne at 9 years of age. So he's 9 years old. He's a 9-year-old king. Goodness. So unfortunately for Edward, he doesn't live very long. He gets sick and he dies in 1553 at the age of 15. And therefore, the next in line would be Mary, because she was the firstborn. Even though she's a woman, she was the firstborn. So Mary assumes the throne. Now, remember, King Henry VIII had turned to Protestantism, all right? So England was a Protestant country at the time, right? Well, Mary's mother was Catholic. Remember I said that, right? Catherine of Aragon was Catholic. Mary was Catholic, but Mary was a devout Catholic, a zealot, if you will. And she did some pretty harsh things. I know, even meaner than you, believe it or not. Yeah, actually, I'll tell you what she did. She had a bloody reign, and she marries the King of Spain, Philip II. Now, what was upsetting about that to the English populace was that he was a foreigner, right? He was an un-English foreigner. And he was a Catholic on top of it. So the Protestants who lived in England were not very, very happy. And the people in power who were Protestants were not very happy. Of course, Mary got rid of most of them. What happens is Mary is unable to produce an heir to the throne, a child at all, a male or a female. And at one point, she thinks she's pregnant, and she's not pregnant. Some people say she had some kind of growth or something where she believed she was pregnant, or it's psychological. Well, she starts to lose it. And unfortunately, Mary dies So in any case, that was good for Elizabeth, because Elizabeth became the new queen. Wow! And guess what? The Protestants in England, man, they're having a party because Elizabeth was a Protestant. So in 1558, Elizabeth becomes Queen of England. What does she do? She jumps right in. She reduces the size of the Privy Council. She eliminates the Catholic members of that council. Now, she doesn't kill them. She doesn't have them burned at the stake or executed. She just fires them. So she purges her kingdom of the Catholic people in power because she doesn't trust them. Not that Elizabeth was a zealot like Mary, but Elizabeth was smart because she figured people who are in power, who are Catholics, are going to, at the request of the Pope, get rid of her. And in fact, Pope Gregory the 13th, there's a lovely painting of him. So Pope Gregory the 13th proclaimed in 1580 that it would be no sin to rid the world of such a miserable heretic. Yeah. So the Pope gives the blessing to kill the Queen of England. I mean, I know. I don't know what's wrong with people, right? Yeah, I know. Even you see yeah. Anyway, to understand Elizabeth's situation concerning the growing threat to her life, all you need to do is look at this portrait entitled The Rainbow Portrait. That was the beginning of Elizabeth's troubles concerning assassination attempts due to the Pope's decree, okay? So if we look at this portrait really closely, you can see eyes and ears embroidered into her dress, she's telling the people who would attempt to assassinate her or plot against her that she is watching and listening. And she develops this spy network, which we'll get into in a minute. She's also depicted as having great wisdom. So on her sleeve, there is a neat little serpent there. Okay, the serpent has always been a symbol of wisdom in many, many cultures. She also has lots of jewels and fine fabric depicting her majesty and splendor, of course, the wealth of the kingdom. And of course, a beautiful crown on her head is a symbol of the monarchy. Her portraits always depict her as Elizabeth the monarch. Okay, remember, she's up against people who, want a king. And Elizabeth's saying, no, I can do this, and I can do it better than a king. And she did. She's also wearing pearls, which are a symbol of virginity, which is interesting. She was known as the Virgin Queen. She did not get married. She kept putting off these suitors because she wanted to rule the kingdom. Like her father, King Henry VIII. She had a lot of Henry VIII in her, the good part of Henry VIII. And in her hands, you can see, it's kind of cool, she's holding a rainbow, which is a symbol of peace. Elizabeth did not want to go to war with France or with Spain. She wanted to avoid that at all costs. Why put people to death for these kinds of things when she felt it could be done through dialogue? Okay? So since the Pope's decree, many Catholic zealots in countries like Spain and Italy, she had to worry about them. She had to worry about her cousin, Mary, Queen of Scots, who planned to overthrow her, and other people, just because the Pope decreed that she could be killed. She was a heretic, okay? So William Cecil, who was a primary advisor, you see in this image here, he's to the left of her, hired the man to the right of her, Sir Francis Walsingham, to be her principal Secretary of State. Now, the principal Secretary of State was kind of like a combination of the Secretary of State that we have in the United States and the CIA director, okay? So this guy was the director of the spy network, and he built an extensive spy network. It was amazing. His spy network had spies in Scotland, France, Italy, Spain, and as far as Turkey and North Africa. It was unbelievable. So Sir Francis Walsingham was a brilliant guy who put this incredible spy network together, of course, which included John Dee. He recruited people from universities. He didn't just pick anybody who wanted to be a spy. He wanted people who could speak other languages so that he could place them in countries where they needed to be, so they could gain intelligence. He also hired cryptographers like Dr. John Dee, okay, to decipher codes that were being passed around and to create codes. Remember John Dee's 007 moniker when he communicated with Queen Elizabeth? All right, that's what this is all about. Elizabeth had to protect herself from the myriad threats against her life. For the most part, people love the Queen, all right? And they love her because she's eloquent, she's intelligent, and she seems to be very fair, okay, to people. Now, Of course, the people wonder, well, who's she going to marry? Who's going to be the next king of England? Because that's the important thing, right? Not the queen, it's the king. Remember the time that we're talking about here, right? So Elizabeth is wise to this. She's so savvy. She knows that if she marries, the king becomes the person in power, and she wants to be the person in power. She has a vision for England. John Dee talked to her about the British Empire. She has this vision for England, and she doesn't want anybody to change that. She wants to put her vision into action, praxis, right? So that's what she wants to do. They go about trying to find a suitable match for Elizabeth, and she had many, many suitors, but Elizabeth is so smart. What she does is she delays, she prolongs these engagements. She stretches them out for weeks, months, years, and her suitors become completely irritated, and they decide, I'm not going to bother with her. I'm done with her, right? She's not serious about this. Or in some cases, she pit one suitor against another, right? For her hand in marriage. Of course, she had no intention of marrying anybody. In fact, there was a moment where she declared, I will have here but one mistress and no master. So Elizabeth had no plans on getting married. Nevertheless, she ruled England and ruled it very well. And she was beloved among most of the English populace, except for some of the Catholics who were pissed off, right? And wanted to get rid of her. Okay, so here's the sad part of the story, and here's where it links up with Emblem 11, okay? In 1562, she contracted smallpox, all right? And it severely disfigured her face, severely scarred it, not disfigured, but just it scarred it, okay? So what does Queen Elizabeth do? She uses ceruse to cover up the scars and the pockmarks on her face from smallpox. Ceruse, as we know now, all right, was a combination, is a cosmetic made primarily of white lead. Now, what happened was many women in the 1600s used ceruse, okay? Queen Elizabeth used a fancy version called Venetian ceruse, which had water, vinegar, and white lead in it. And inevitably, the lead poisoning causes hair loss. Don't you dare. You don't have arms and legs. And also, thank you. And also the loss of teeth. And as time went on, over I think 20 or 30 years, Elizabeth eventually had all the mirrors in the palace removed because she didn't want to look at herself. She lost her hair, she lost her teeth. She also lost a lot of her people who have been taking care of her for years and years and years. People devoted and dedicated to the queen, the lady of the realm, people that took care of her immediate ladies began to pass away. And she became very, very depressed. And eventually, in 1603, Elizabeth passed away. It is believed, and that's why I'm talking about Elizabeth here, that she suffered lead poisoning, and that's what eventually killed her. So that's our mystery guest, Queen Elizabeth, the magnificent Queen Elizabeth, one of my favorite people, okay? And of course we have thank you to the Angry Mummy Candle and the Happy Mummy Candle. Thank you guys very much. Oh boy. Thank you very much, guys. It was a pleasure. And now let's talk about the music to Emblem 11. Welcome back. Thank you so much for watching and continuing to watch. And thanks for putting up with my goofiness. In any case, now let's talk about the music to Emblem 11. Of course, I downloaded the MIDI file from Madame McLean's website, and I'm going to put my own instrumentation on it. And we're going to look at various images, paintings of the royal family, King Henry VIII, Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, of course, Elizabeth, Mary, and Edward. A little montage of a little tribute to the Tudors who ruled England for so long. And although some of them were ruthless, some of them were very wise in the way they ruled England, like Queen Elizabeth. And I hope you enjoy it. So stay tuned. Here we go. thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the lovely music to Emblem 11. It's one of my favorite pieces, actually. I really, really enjoyed that. And thanks to you, Angry Mummy Candle and Happy Mummy Candle. It's good to see you guys. It's nice to meet you and that kind of thing. So I will say farewell, but not goodbye. Onward and upward to Emblem 12 next time. And we'll have some fun with that as well. Thank you to Max and Carly for your wonderful contribution to this video, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thanks again to those of you who continue to watch, subscribers, non-subscribers, people who watch, wonderful. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe. What the hell, you got nothing to lose, right? It's free, it doesn't cost anything. And you watch some really wacky videos. I hope we've all learned from this emblem. I mean, I do. Every time I open that book, as I say, I learn something. I certainly learned a lot about, Roman mythology and Queen Elizabeth and her family. So please stay tuned for the next video in a little while. All right, Emblem number 12 from Atalanta Fugiens. I hope I'm doing justice to this, and I hope you're enjoying it just as much. Thank you very, very much. Have a great day.
Mummy? Oh dear, Mummy. Who is that weird man?
Keep your head straight. Okay, go again.
Stop it. Mummy? Oh dear, Mummy. Shit.
Go.
Sorry. Mummy? Oh dear, Mummy. Carly! Mummy?
Go, please, continue.
No, stop
It's
it.
okay, go.